Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here with Janis at hotmail.com. That's her address. And we're talking to Janis, Janis Reed. She is a psychic medium, intuitive healer, and so much more. And we're going to welcome her back to the show today because she's one of our favorite guests, full of energy, light, and of course, as a storyteller, full of heyoka. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. I hope you can hear me okay. My computer end has gone quiet on me.
I hear you perfectly, yes.
Well, then perfectly is, I will accept perfectly. Thank
Great.
you.
Well, say hello to your audience.
Yeah.
Introducing yourself.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Y'all take a warning. I might end up sounding like I'm trying to preach today, but I'm really not. I've tried to be a preacher. I got the preacher lingo down, but I'm no preacher. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about faith. I grew up having faith. I was told I had faith because I was breathing. That's my introduction to faith. I didn't realize that all those people I already knew and played with had anything to do with the church. As a kid, I had broken into the church next door and spent the whole day in there. I was about maybe 3. We lived in Galion, Ohio, and I broke out. I just left out of the front door, walked down the street, and walked into I was following my little light ball, and it took me into the church, and I played with all these way cool people and got home to be in trouble because I was gone all day. Later, I learned about faith and Jesus. Heck, I had already played with him. But it comes up special today for me because that faith can confuse people. When we have beliefs and when we have faith, those two things are really not quite the same. This is important to me because these last few days, I've been having a lot of visitors here in the house. People that come in that I've only heard about, my husband's family has been coming in to visit, to check him out. My husband is not well. He's in the other room with the window open because if he dies, I don't want his spirit trapped in the house while we're talking here, on the phone. It's just fair, my damn house. But it brings, it's poignant for me because I'd never met his mother until last night. I had met his father. The two of them hadn't really gotten along in decades, but they both came in to check on their boy. I've called the doctors and made all kind of stuff going on. It's a strange thing because in some ways, he will be so much happier if he would just go on. He'd be out of his skin. But he is afraid. And so he's pushing against it and he's causing himself pain. And this is simply because of his lack of faith. We cause a lot of problems for ourselves when we don't have faith in something greater than ourselves. So, see, this really gets poignant when someone really close to you begins to transition and the people around them start to question their faith. Well, a lot of people want to save him. Well, he wants to live to be 100. That only give him about another 25 years. Maybe 20, but he's not going to do it. He has not done the things required of him to ensure that his physical form will last that long. Because I am who I am, he's always been a little frightened because he doesn't have the faith that I do. He never has. He believes in science, and he's one heck of a scientist, especially because he also has his own form of unshakable faith. It's different than mine. And this is when it gets funky, when people start to transition. It isn't my faith that I get to play with here, except privately and, online with whoever many people are on the line. But for my husband, I am in the position that I am encouraging his faith. For people to be successful in their life, I feel like they need to believe in something stronger than themselves. It could be God. For a long time, it was my mom. You didn't ever want to cross my mama. But we all need to have some kind of faith in something greater. I say this aloud, hoping that my husband's mother will hear. She was a wonderful woman from everything I know, but she's got her doubts about me because she and I never met in life.
Oh my God.
And the fact that her ex-husband and I got along very well in life, well, she's suspicious. It's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Personalities do
Mm-hmm.
recombobulate for events. As people pass over, their consciousness, which is truly the only thing we have, everything else is on borrowed time. It's a temporary thing. It's a temporary gig. It's not permanent. It seems permanent because it lasts our whole lives. But this is really this breathing and eating thing and laughing and loving is a temporary opportunity. As we get, let's see, Bonnie Raitt said that the life becomes more precious when we find there's less time for it. Faith is important when change comes. My faith says that he's not dying today. I know he's not. He thinks he is. It's a it's a husband-wife argument kind of thing.
Oh,
I am also aware that I told my daddy I'd see him in the morning, and then he hauled off and died before the next morning came. As close as I am to the people who I love, I am too close to see for them correctly. My own emotions get charged up in there. And so I can not be correct in my observations. Knowing this, man, I've called the doctor's called me. I've everything but calling the police officers just to make sure I don't screw up here. As I honor my husband and his wishes and his faith. When my mother went into hospice, the hospice lady came in. She was not the right person for that job. Oh, she was so worried. Was my mother a Christian? Did she need, oh, she freaked me out because she was just going frantic because my mama was in there trying to leave.
oh my goodness.
I
I'm
ended up
sorry.
counseling the counselor and found out that her mother was also in a bad shape. And so she was kind of bleeding one worry over to another worry. And she had assumed that everyone worried in the same way she did, and that I was worried my mother might die. Well, at that point, I was worried if she didn't, she was going to be in a heck of a pain. And I was, kind of helping her to dream through it. The hospice nurse had never considered dreaming through death. And so I wanted to bring that up today because it's sort of what I'm doing with my husband. It worked so well with my mother. See, I work in the dream time. I work on the other side of the veil, as we call it. I see what other people don't see, and I hear what they can't quite grasp. To be able to step from one side to the other side, for me, this is simple. For other people, it's something to be wary of. I've heard someone call me a witch. Well, sticks and stones. I can call them a Republican. But when people come to their times of transition, when it gets to where it's kind of close, the person themselves gets to make a choice. Am I going to stay or am I going to leave? My husband has not made his choice yet. He's going to stay in that room and drive me nuts until I'm 100 years old because he loves me. I want what's best for my husband, for his spirit and soul. I want him to know that he's had a good life. He's been important. He's done things that were worthwhile. These are good things to tell people, especially if you don't like them. Just because somebody's dying doesn't mean we suddenly have to like them. Just because they just died doesn't mean we suddenly have to put them on a pedestal. and forget about all those times they stole our lunch money. To keep an honest relationship going, as our marriage has tried to be, is to keep that honesty going. So he says, no, I'm not going. And I'm saying, yeah, you are. He says, but I'm afraid to die. I said, no, you're not. Go ahead. And if someone was to see us on a camera, I might get locked up for abusing my husband the way I'm talking to him, but we're laughing about it. Some things you just can't do anything about except to either accept or fight against it. My mother slipped away. My father went to bed. He slipped away. They had easy passings. It was easy to talk with them when they left. I watched my father when he didn't run into my mother's arms like I expected him to. I was granted a really privileged seat. I watched this little boy run up and grab his mama and his mother sweep him up off his feet. The reunion, I did, I cried. Supposedly I had met my grandmother, but I didn't remember her. But there she was, sweeping up her last baby child, taking him home. It was wonderful. Now I see my husband's mother. She's nosing around. She's checking out the corner. She's really upset because I don't dust. Not like I should. She is like a three-dimensional image, like throwing shadows in my house. She and her husband, his father. There are people here I don't recognize. I've never met them, but they're his family. I know that because they're with that group of people. Nobody is expecting him to die. They're all here trying to tell him to straighten up, sit up, eat something, and get on with yourself. But he's in there trying to decide, see. Not even the other side, not even his own mother can convince him until he's convinced. Last night, I had the opportunity to spend all night long sitting up with him, crying and sobbing and holding his sick hand. And heck, I went to bed. I don't sleep in the same room as him. In fact, I don't even sleep in the same building. But I went merrily off to bed and left him with his old sick up self. When I got in this morning, he's in the bed. He's breathing easy. He's just asleep. He's not dying. He's asleep. He's not in pain. He's not in worried. And his mother has sat down and she's just sitting there with him. She's nothing to do right now. I am welcoming the help that's coming in to serve me. I've been reminded that if I lose all my cookies and go nuts here and start bawling, it's just going to make it worse. It won't be helpful at all. I am in the business of service to spirits, to our souls, including my husband's. I don't know what he's up to. Sometimes I'll think he just wants the attention. But in reality, I know his day will come and it'll sneak up on him and he'll freak out. And he may or may not be ready. But between now and then, quietly, I'll be reminding myself of my faith, of what I have seen, what my experiences have been. And I'm sitting here smiling, talking to you, having a good time, enjoying that people are coming to help my husband. You might not see them if you were in the living room, but they're here. They're kind of milling around and they're not in the way and they're no trouble, but they're taking some of the weight from me and I'm letting them take it. I have business to do. I have a life I have to live. The bills must be paid. We must pay the rent.
Yeah, of course.
I got to keep going. I want to come see you one day.
Oh,
So it is not fitting for me to go lose all my good joy.
correct.
Just because someone I love dearly is going to have the opportunity of a lifetime before I am.
True.
See, I've already been. It's cool. If people knew what was over there, there'd probably be more suicides. But if you suicide, you don't get to the same place. So don't do that. But on the other side is this wonderful other side of our lives.
Mhm.
I've been wondering about it as I get older. I'm suddenly, okay, I'm not going to make the swimsuit cover. There's so many wrinkles. Oh my God. There's things that's never going to happen. So what do? Is I get near the end of my life and I find, shoot, there's a lot of things I can do at the end of my life. I can enjoy it. I can be happy that I
Mhm.
won't have to keep doing this for 5,000 years.
True.
It's pretty good. Death is a good thing when it's the right time.
Yeah.
So this is why I say I might sound like I'm preaching, but really I'm trying not to. It's just that God is good and God is great, and we should thank Him while we have a chance.
God
Or
bless.
her.
Look, I took care of my mom 2017. She got diagnosed with cancer 2015, lung cancer. She passed April 2017. She moved in with me. I took care of her at the house for 5 months with a newborn and a 2-year-old. And when I tell you those are the most rewarding days of my life. And when she passed, held her hand, talked to her. I even videotaped it. People think I'm weird, but I think death is beautiful. And I
I
got to
knew
tell
I
you
loved
something.
you.
One of the most beautiful things was now she had lung cancer. So she, in the end, didn't look so good. She was swollen, puffy, green, dark. She wasn't eating, clearly lost her hair. But the most miracle thing, which I've never heard about this, but when you die, literally minutes later, half hour later, she the darkness went from her face, the puffiness. She looked like a supermodel. She looked
Did
gorgeous.
you see it?
She died puffy and not looking so well. And within minutes, it was, I have pictures of I'm like, it's a miracle. I'm like, look, death is gone and her body looks beautiful again. Like this cancer left with her body. It
Oh,
was
thank
just
goodness.
so beautiful. And I'm just like, and I talk about death like you. I'm open, honest about it. I feel it's going to happen to all of us. We got to embrace it. We should
With any
talk about
luck.
it. And like I always said, wish I could be a hospice nurse or something. I would love people, and I love in the end to give them that love and satisfaction. Like you mentioned, you had someone for your mother who maybe wasn't a good fit. You'd be great at it. Like so would I. Just so loving, compassionate, encouraging to have someone hold your hand and be so warm and loving. So I
To be
commend you on all
accepting.
you're going through. And my apologies. I know it's part of life, but how long have you been with your husband for?
Well, if he makes it, we'll have 20 years this year.
God
Excuse
bless.
me. I have to blow my nose.
Go
Forgive me.
ahead. Go ahead. Amazing. Amazing. You value that time. And oh, I appreciate you still being, you are able here. You're here able to do the show. It's just, you're amazing
Hey,
because
it beats
it's
sitting around
part of,
sniffing.
it's true. It's part of our life. It is. Death is. So,
For us to really appreciate birth, we have to appreciate the whole thing.
mm-hmm,
It's like the people that say, "Oh, you shouldn't have abortions." Well, I think that really should be between the woman and her doctor. I mean, that's kind of like
mm-hmm.
personal stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think some crazy ass excuse me, in
You can
Washington
say
should make
ass.
that
It's okay.
decision as
Mm-hmm.
to say when shoes should die or live.
Who, when, what? Yeah, true. Mm-hmm.
um, excuse me.
Take your time.
I've gotten a little warm.
Go get water. Do you need water? Go ahead.
I have water. Oh,
All right. So Janice Reed, by the way, is here live joining us. And as an intuitive psychic medium, she can be reached at psychic-medium-southwest-va.com for Virginia or goddessjanis@hotmail.com. That's GODDESSJANIS at hotmail.com. And there's a lot she can work with you on. We even did the whole crumple up the paper thing with me last week.
I can't
She's
believe
got
I
that
hear.
intuitive. Yeah. But
Well, I thought about doing something like that this week, and I don't know. There's so many people in my house right now. Um, I don't know who I'm trying to impress, and I don't want to tick off anybody. So
mhm,
um, today is this. It's encouragement. I'm here to encourage the joy in the world.
yeah,
That's my goal is to bring joy back.
yeah.
Who was it? Somebody was several years ago. Some male singer was bringing sexy back.
Oh yeah, I'm
I
bringing
want to bring
sexy
happy
back.
back.
I
Yeah,
love it.
I'm gonna go around like put the box over my head and go and put it
Beautiful
back
and
down.
positivity and joy and the
You have to.
appreciation of this thing that we get handed with life. Some people have the luxury of it being long, some have short lives, but we should appreciate it.
We should, because the way that we
Mm-hmm.
leave this life is how we enter the next life. I mean, think about that. If you leave this life screaming and hollering, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
come into the next life in an unhappy and uncomfortable situation.
Mm-hmm.
People who are reborn from having been killed in battle,
Yeah.
they come in with some scary troubles.
Mm-hmm.
People that have died in happily and smoothly in their sweet sleep, they come in
Yeah.
and, life is a joy.
Mm-hmm.
I must have died laughing as far as I can tell, because
Yeah.
there's too many happy things in the world here. We got this great blue sky, great cookies. I'm here for the cookies.
Yeah.
And love, this wonderful opportunity to exchange the elixir of life with each
Mm-hmm.
other, whether they are in a skin or no longer in a skin, are not quite yet born to be in a skin. To love someone is to respect them and their wishes, not to control them and contain them. My husband's wishes is to live 100 years. So I'm in there with soup. I'm gonna bring him soup and feed him till he's 100. His
Beautiful.
his physicality may not last that long.
Mm-hmm.
But if he leaves this earth knowing he is loved,
Yeah.
knowing he's calm,
Most important. Yeah.
that's how he goes into the next world.
Yeah.
And between me and all the other people who have loved my husband, we all know this would be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So my husband had a past life experience that has trailed into this life,
Mm-hmm.
because it was almost as good as having once been Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes into past life and they all want to be somebody famous.
Yeah.
In this case, there's a real good probability and chance that if past life is for real, my husband was once the great Pakal,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
King Pakal of Mexico.
God
King
bless. Yeah.
Pakal. He looks like him. Anybody knows him would tell you that. So he's come in with this lifetime thinking he's still a king and an emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to deal with all that silliness. I told somebody else if I was in that same lifetime, I must have been his mother, because he doesn't pull that crap with
Yep.
me.
Yep.
I married this guy that had goats and a PhD, and we've had a blast living here. As he's gotten closer to the end of his life, though, that Bacall thing came out hard and heavy.
Oh,
So I've used that as an opportunity to talk to him,
yeah.
to get ready. My dear friend, Henry Baldock, he led past life hypnotherapy regression conferences. And for 10 years, twice a year, I went.
Mm-hmm.
To begin with, people would go through the program, and at the nighttime after class, they'd just be all loopy and crazy because their brains had been blown.
Mm-hmm.
My job was to scoop them up, put them back in their skins, and pat them, make them nice and happy so that they wouldn't
Uh-huh.
freak out over what they had experienced.
Wow.
When he passed, I had promised him a good death. And a few minutes after he passed, not unlike your mama,
Mm-hmm.
something happened, and this explosion erupted from his chest.
Wow.
It looked like the
Mm-hmm.
sun had exploded. And
Yeah.
then I heard him laugh, and the light raced around the room until I chased it out the window.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful. It was like a
Wow.
movie, like your mom got beautiful. When we
Yeah.
leave this life, we leave all life's troubles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a celebration. We get to go back home. Oh, we get to go home where it doesn't matter if we're fat or wrinkly or old or young. Depends on if we love.
Yeah.
If we choose with our free will to be compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
to be true to ourselves,
Yeah.
even though other people, we help them be true to their selves, and those two selves are very different.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, but we can do both things at once. We don't have to argue and fight. We don't have to freak out because the only one that knows how to do the taxes is in there half gone. Things will be okay. There's a lot of people dying right now. There's a lot of tragedies and accidents, big destructive, train wrecks and boat wrecks and everything else. People do this every day, all day long. People die.
Yeah.
All day long, people worry about it. Oh, they think it's the end. Don't let them die. Keep them alive. Honor the journey. I believe we should honor the journey of people, ourselves and others. My journey has included being around people that transition.
Yeah.
I haven't decided if it was easier to transition when someone dies or that transition that mama makes just before she gives birth. They're both real dangerous. You don't want to get close to somebody. They could wail out. It's just a passage through the doorway.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a long haul and then a passage.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of death. Don't cry for the other person who has left.
True.
You cry for yourself because they took that recipe with them and you'll never know how to put that thing together again.
True. Very
Cry
true.
for your losses.
Aw.
But wish them well.
Yeah. Well,
Enjoy, laugh that they spent time with you.
Well,
Of
thank
all
you.
the
I
people they could have
apologize. We are out of time. Well, would you mind starting to
Go.
wrap up? I apologize to have to push you like
We
this.
gotta
We've had
go.
a great
We
conversation
gotta
today.
go. Yep. Ain't no hope for death and dying, huh?
God bless you and your husband. Wishing you a good week. And
We're gonna
whatever's
have a
meant to be is
great
meant
week.
to be. Good.
Everybody this week is gonna have a good week. This is my psychic presumption. Life is gonna be good. There'll be good things, unfortunate things, but the best part about it is that I'll see you next week.
Perfect. Goddess Janis, Janis at hotmail.com, right?
.com. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Best of luck.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.